Welcome to Podjunction, where business meets podcasting. Whether you're on a morning jog, driving to work, whipping up a meal, or just simply taking a minute for yourself, our weekly bite-sized episodes promise fresh insights from successful podcasters who have cracked the code of using podcasts to grow their business. So whether you're a podcasting newbie or a seasoned podcaster, this episode is for you.
Welcome to the Podjunction podcast. My name is Matt Edmundson, and beside me is the ever-prepared Sadaf Beynon. What's wrong with you today?
I just lost it inside of.
Oh, so the headphone bit has fallen out. So
I'm just going to go under the table and grab it.
That's super dignified. This is where everybody's going to be like, I'm just going to go watch the video. Because what's going on? So welcome to Podjunction. As well as being super prepared, we are a podcast that talks about how to use podcasting to grow your business. As you can see, we don't do much editing here on Podjunction. It just all kind of happens. And yeah, it's great to have you with us. If you haven't done so already, make sure you like, subscribe, do all the usual stuff to stay connected with us. Because, we're just enjoying the ride. We're going to keep going. Well, at least I am. I don't know about this one next to me. Have you caught it? Are we good?
Yeah.
You can hear me now?
I can.
Okay, let's get your microphone straightened up a little bit.
Right.
There we go. So what have we got coming up in today's show?
So we have a guest.
How to prepare for a podcast?
Yes.
Make sure that you are ready before you hit the record button.
That's a bonus episode coming up.
10 steps from Sadaf on how to make sure your earplugs stay in.
The fly is still here. Just noticed it.
Man, that fly. I think it's got to be a new fly. I don't think flies live that long.
I don't know. I
Well,
think they
okay,
go on
anyway.
forever.
Yeah. You could talk
All
about
right.
that on your, what was it, the podcast you want us to do? The life cycle of a fly?
Yeah. If it only lives 24 hours, it's not going to go.
Yeah. If you're new to the show, a very warm welcome to you. And you'll be going, what are you talking about? And it's just something that came up last week. So just check out the previous episode. Would be my advice, because I wouldn't actually know how to explain it.
No. All right. So today we are listening to a segment or watching a segment from Skip Wilson, who is the host of the Advertising Podcast.
Okay. Skip Wilson.
Yeah. And he's going to be
It's got to be
talking
one of the
about-
coolest names on the planet.
Yeah, you said that.
Yeah. Skip Wilson. It sounds like he should be a detective.
Yeah?
Yeah. That kind of Skip Wilson. I got him pictured in my head as like a 50s detective. That's kind of cool. So I'm curious. I'm curious to see what he looks like. So I've not actually seen the video or met Skip yet.
No, you haven't. And actually, you're going to meet him on the e-commerce podcast as well.
So he's a guest on the EP.
He is, yeah.
Okay, very good.
But in this segment today, he's talking about why he started his podcast.
Okay, very good. Well, let's get into Skip Wilson. Here he is.
Skip, you've had a remarkable journey in advertising, starting as a copywriter at 16. What inspired you to start the advertising podcast?
So when I started the podcast, mostly, honestly, that was our sort of attempt to begin to tell our story and tell the story of our brand. So, the main reason I started the podcast, being fully transparent, was because for marketing purposes, for purely self-serving purposes. Now, that said, we wanted to make a show that was actually beneficial and actually offered some insights and benefits to the listener, of course. But the main reason was because that was I came from, before Draft, I was the vice president of digital media at iHeartMedia. And we built out, one of the main things we built out in my division was the iHeart podcast network. And just seeing the power of podcasting, both large podcasts as well as small podcasts, and the power and impact it can have on businesses. I was like, really should always be a part of someone's go-to-market strategy.
So how does your podcast then complement the work that you're doing at Draft Media?
Yeah. So one of the rules I have for starting a podcast venture is because we're actually about to launch another one too.
Okay.
But one of my main rules is if there's 0 listeners or 1 million listeners, it needs to be structured in a way to where there's benefit to the company. Because that's something that a lot of folks don't realize is everyone, of course, thinks, if I start a podcast, then I need a 10,000 downloads a month or something like that in order to make it worth it. But that's actually not true. I mean, for some formats, that's true. Like if your goal is to support the podcast through advertising revenue or something like that, then you're typically paid by a cost per thousand basis. So you need thousands of listeners. But for starting like a business focused podcast or a podcast that's like business adjacent, it's actually, you really don't need any listeners at all. One of the main things that I look at is one, creating a reservoir of knowledge so that if we bring someone into our ecosystem, we can send them a link to things so that they can listen and become a part of our culture and understand the reason why we structure things the way we do and those types of things. Mm-hmm. And then also with the advertising podcast in particular, that was really a lead generation play. Like our main goal with that podcast was to invite people onto the podcast that we otherwise wouldn't be able to have conversations with.
So your guests that are on your podcast are people that you want to have as your clients eventually.
Correct. That's exactly right. I mean, it's just a lot easier to say, the way our business is structured, the way Draft Media Partners is structured is a little different than a traditional like ad agency. We mostly work behind the scenes of other ad agencies and marketers and media companies. And so like if it's a fractional CMO, we're their team that they outsource things to. If it's a mid-sized ad agency, then usually there's, they may do like AdWords themselves, but anything else, they're going to want to sub it out to someone else. And then that's where we come in. So those folks are all very busy people that don't normally have, like a lot of time to just sit down and chit chat. And so it's just a lot easier to say, hey, be a guest of our podcast than it is to say, hey, let's talk about what makes Draft so wonderful, because that we get 1 million of those emails every day, right?
Yeah, totally. Do you have any stories of people that you've had on the show that have then turned out to be great clients?
Yeah, we do it in a very soft sell way. We're very much if you build it from a business standpoint, now this isn't necessarily a podcast so much question, but if your business is structured in my opinion, sort of the right way, and then you have a very compelling product that really almost sort of sells itself.
Yeah.
So I would say actually, I mean, pretty much not 100% of the time, but almost 100% of the time, when we sort of in natural conversation, we'll go through and I can mention something like, our simulator tool that we built or the platform that we built or something like that. Then there's always intrigue or interest because we are different than what's out there, and our platform is different than what exists in the marketplace. Also, too, every conversation in the business to business world always begins with at least in the West, always begins with what do you do? Right? That's like the first question. It's like, oh, Draft Media Partners, what do you guys do? And so that's just an instant invitation for your elevator pitch. And so as long as you have that message crafted to that individual or audience, that can be really compelling.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier that actually for the kind of podcast that you've got, where it's business adjacent, you don't actually need many listeners or any listeners.
Right.
So how then, well, I guess one of my questions is, do you focus at all in any kind of monetization strategies, or is it just purely based on your guests and kind of drive that top of funnel kind of experience?
So like I mentioned, we're about to start another podcast called The Advertising Singularity. Shameless plug, although it doesn't exist yet, but called The Advertising Singularity, where that show is really all about talking about like the future of advertising technology and the things that are being built right now, because there was over 1,000 marketing SaaS products that came to market in just the past 30 days. Yeah. So it's a kind of I feel like the phrase is overused all the time that we're in a time of change, or those types of things, or we're in an unprecedented time, but we truly are in the marketing world. I mean, there's so many MarTechs just popping up constantly. And so that's really what that show is about.
Mm-hmm.
That is a show format that we're kind of doing. It serves two purposes. One, there's really not going to be guests on that show. So there might occasionally be, if we are talking about a specific product or something like that, there might be a guest. But for the most part, the format of that show isn't to have guests. So for that one, there's really two monetization strategies. One is it creates what I call a binge bank for people that are in our pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the, in business, especially service businesses or business to business businesses, companies only do business with people that they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
And so by having a podcast, even if it's only, 10 to 20 episodes or something like that, that you can work into your pipeline so that you can say, hey, and if you want to learn more about us, listen to this. Most people will ignore it, but for those handful of customers that do actually, or not customers, but rather prospects that do actually start to listen to that, then they're become instant brand advocates, right? And they understand what you mean. Like, we have some internal phrases like, no failure, only feedback. And if I mention things like our simulator tool and those types of things, that means nothing unless someone's already in our world, right? And a podcast is a nice way to bring them into our world without us having to actually spend hours with them, right? Yeah. We spent hours creating content once, and then they're getting to enjoy it. But with that one too, because there is no guests, listeners will, it's another one where if there's only 10 or 15 listeners, but those 10 or 15 listeners are in our pipeline, there's benefit to us.
Yeah. But
that is one where eventually we would want to scale that up to try to tell the story of our company and things more. Yeah. So there would be a little bit more of a monetization strategy.
If that got you curious and you want to catch the full episode, be sure to subscribe to the show. We've got plenty more great conversations coming up.
So, welcome back. Man, I got pages of notes out of that.
So why don't you go first?
You go. Well, I love that. I think it's really fascinating. I mean, he's touched on things we've talked about before in past podcasts about, for him, it's almost like he's now got two podcasts. He's got the one where he's focused on the guest, and he's now starting another one, The Advertising Singularity, which I think is a brilliant name for a podcast. Yeah. I just think the word singularity, why am I not using this more?
Yeah.
If you see a podcast called The E-Commerce Singularity coming out soon.
Matt's behind it.
That was a great name. I thought it was genius. But he's starting that one where he's not focusing on the guests. He's approaching it in two different ways. So for him, what I like about what Skip's doing is he's understanding the purpose of the podcast. Yeah. What is it I want to do with this podcast, and what's the best way to deliver that mechanism? And so he's got two podcasts with two very distinct purposes and two very distinct mechanisms of delivery. Yeah. But they're both podcasts, if that makes sense.
And both to draw people to the business.
Both to draw people to the business. So you want to talk direct to guests, and the other to actually, it's another way to take your content and use it to onboard clients. So he talks a lot about, even if I've only got 12 listeners in the pipeline listening to it, that's great, and so being uber focused on that and using the podcast as a mechanism for delivering that. It'd be really interesting. I don't know if he talks about this later in the interview, but I'd be curious to know, and I can hypothesize, why he chose a podcast as a mechanism to deliver content for clients, to onboard them into his culture, into his ethos, into his ideology. Why he's starting the Advertising Singularity as a podcast. Why has he not done that as an ebook? Or maybe he has. Why has he not just done it as content on his website? I don't know if he answered that at some point.
No, he didn't.
And I think for me, it's an interesting, so let's hypothesize why he would do that. I think, and Skip, obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, please do. I genuinely would love to know, but I would assume part of it is with podcasts, as we've talked about before on the show, it's where people consume the content. So if they're looking at web pages, chances are they could be in the office, they could have 1,000,001 other things vying for their attention. Whereas with podcasts, it tends to be more in the personal space, in the car, on the way to work, in your ears, walking the dog. They tend to be more distraction-free spaces. And so you get to focus on the content a little bit more. And so I wonder if that's part of the reason. I mean, you would argue that actually if you have content, you should deliver it through every mechanism possible, through your website, through ebooks, through videos, through podcasts, because not everybody consumes content the same way. And actually, I might look at your website, I then might read. It's a bit like, you know, if you read a good book, you'll go, I'll get the audiobook. Or if I get the audiobook and it's good, I'll get the real book and I'll read it. Consuming it in multiple different ways, I think is a really smart thing to do.
Yeah. You talked about that, the advertising singularity podcast being a lead generation tool. And even, as you said, even if there's 12 people listening, that's 12 people listening that are warm leads in some sense, aren't they? So if he can get people into his world, or the people who want to be part of that, then those are warm leads. Whereas the other podcast that he has is it's more for general listening, isn't it? And you may become a client, you may not. You might just be listening because you enjoy the content. Yeah. Whereas this one seems more focused towards actually
the clients.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that actually as he was talking. I was thinking that this is last time Egan talked about doing specialist, just like limited edition runs, didn't he, on the podcast? We talked about that on the show. And as he was talking, I was thinking, actually, this is one of the things that we could do. And for those of you who don't know, dear listener, we own several companies we operate. One of which is at the moment, it is actively trying to acquire e-com businesses to create an e-commerce group, right? So that's what it's trying to do. And that's where I spend most of my time, and it's very good fun. But one of the things that we could do there, I think, is actually do a limited edition podcast run that onboards clients to our methodology, how we do things, why we do things, brings in stories. So if someone's interested or wanting to find out more, there's like a series of podcasts that we could do as part of that whole process. And as Skip was talking, I thought, actually that's... I don't quite know how to define that yet, but as a loose idea, I thought that was quite smart.
Yeah, and actually, if you can create content like that they can binge, as he called it, the binge bank. I like that.
The binge bank.
That they can go into and just, get themselves immersed in it. It saves long phone calls.
Yes.
And they can do that in their own time. And if they're interested, have that conversation.
Yeah, it does. And actually, again, you're giving them content in an easy to digest format. And it's easy enough to create. I could create it as a video, put it on YouTube, take the audio from the video, put it on as a podcast, and you've got the best of both worlds, really. And I think it's a smart way to do it. So I'm going to subscribe to a Singularity podcast because I'm really curious to see how he does it, how he makes that work. Yeah. And maybe we'll get him back on the show at some point, maybe in about 6 years. 6 months is probably a bit more. 6 months to 6 to 12 months time. I go, tell us how it all went. What did you actually find out? But no, I really like that. Did you notice at the start, I'm just going to put my glasses on to read my notes. He started the podcast. You asked him, why did you start? He said he started the podcast to tell his story and the story of the brand. And then he said, so in essence, I started it for marketing purposes. Yeah. What I liked about that was how he defined marketing. Yeah. He said, in effect, he's telling marketing as telling his story and the story of the brand. And actually, I think marketing is two things. It's understanding your story, it's understanding your customer story, and understanding where those two things overlap. And if you can play in that space, then that's an awesome thing to do. And I think, we could talk about why podcasting fulfills that in so many different ways, but actually a good podcast understands, and I think this is one of the things I understand from Skip, what's come clear is he understands the purpose. He wants to grow his business. He understands his story, his software that he offers and how it can help people. And then when it makes sense, he's talking to his guests and he's listening to their story, he is seeing that overlap. He called it the soft sell. I would see it as an overlap between his story and the customer story. And that's where he can just bring some interesting information in that conversation. And that's, soft selling in its sort of finest format, really. But yeah, I love that marketing as, telling the story of your brand.
Yeah.
I would add, it's probably telling the story of your brand in a way that is attractive to your customer.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it Rich Risen says? He says that marketing is the management of perception. I think that's how he defines it. I should ask him. I'm seeing him next week. Marketing is the management of perception, how people perceive you and how you manage that, and how they perceive you in relation to their story and to their pain or their problem or whatever's going on, and how you can or cannot help them fix it.
I like that.
But yeah, really interesting. And I think actually he started off by understanding that his podcast was a marketing tool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what he says. The power of podcasting for businesses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All connected to marketing. And I think, we talk about, how to use podcasts to grow your business. Fundamentally, you have to see it as a marketing tool.
Yeah.
Right? Very different forms of marketing in terms of what that means and looks like. Skip's got 2 different types of podcasts. We've got 4. I don't even know. And we just talked about doing another one for the acquisitions company.
Yeah.
Next time we come onto the podcast, probably about 20 of the flipping things. But yeah, I think see it as a marketing tool, first and foremost. And then you can understand, I guess, the best way to connect with clients, to grow leads, to monetize, to do whatever it is you want to do. But see it first and foremost as a marketing tool. That was the very first thing you said, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
So you'll go.
Well, we've kind of talked about most of it, but something else which I've written down here is that both podcasts talking about marketing, they showcase what his business offers.
Yeah.
So again, going back to the binge bank of content, it's again people becoming more familiar with what the business offers and whether that meets their needs or how it can. It's really helpful.
Yeah, it is. Now, one of the ways that you can do that, if you don't already know, is you can run your elevator pitch at the start of a conversation with your podcast guest, right? So what do I mean by this? So you have a podcast. So we do this with Push. We have a podcast called Push to Be More. Check it out, pushtobemore.com. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to it already. You'll see some of these things come to play. Just sneaky plug there. Did you see how I did that?
I did.
Yeah. Welcome to Podcast Marketing 101. Now, so what we do at the start of the podcast, we record the interview in one. I always say to to the guest, we're going to record this in one take, right? In other words, we don't just record the interview like we do with Skip, for example, and play clips. We record the interview, but I record the intro with the client, right? With the client, with
the guest.
With it, maybe they're the same thing. I don't know. So what that means is the guest is with me throughout the whole podcast. So if you watch Push, you'll see that they're beside me throughout the entire thing. You won't always hear them on the audio because they're just sitting there very, tentatively waiting for their turn to speak. So I will run through a script and I'll say, hey, it's Matt here. Welcome to Push to Be More, where we talk about the stuff that makes life work. And to help us do just that, today I'm chatting to, guest name, Sadaf Beynon. And we're going to be talking about challenges you faced, things that you have had to sort of work through, what you do to recharge your batteries, and what growth looks like, right? So very simple intro. But before we get into that, this show is brought to you by ... right? Now, just that simple phrase, this show is brought to you by, it doesn't have to be brought to you by Nike or whoever. It can actually be bought by your company. And so I would say this show is brought to you by Podjunction. And we specialize in helping business leaders like our guest, and I maybe mention their name. Our business, specializes in helping business leaders like Sadaf here to grow and establish their business using podcasts. That's right. You can use podcasting as a marketing tool. You may never have thought about that, but honestly, it is insanely good. And here's why. And I might tell a story or something. And then that's it. Now, the reason why we do this is because right at the beginning of that show, the guest is obviously listening attentively to what I'm saying, right? They're drawn in. And so we will then read out the guest bio. So this is Sadaf, who is amazing at everything, apart from putting headphones in before the podcast starts. I love, actually, this is a complete sidestep, how your husband is now commenting on the videos on YouTube. That tickled me. You read the guest bio. The guest is then in the show. Now, they have heard your elevator pitch. If this is the first time I've ever spoken to them, which it isn't, because we've done this on the pre-call as well, but I've just reinforced our elevator pitch, what we do. And if they're our ideal client, in their head, they're thinking, oh, this is interesting. And so we then cement that further with what I think is probably a stroke of genius on somebody's part. I don't know who it was. It might have been yours. It might have been Simon's, actually.
Me.
Probably you. I think it might have been Simon, actually, one of my dear friends and mentors. We had then our opening question. It's the only fixed question we have in the show, right?
Yeah.
And in that opening question, we say, or I say, Sadaf, if you had your own podcast, now I'm tying it back into what the mission of the Podjunction is, but if you had your own podcast and you could have anybody on as a guest who's had a big influence in your life, who would it be and why? Now I'm starting to get them to think about having a podcast. And actually, it's a brilliant question because, yeah, it's a bit sneaky. I'm getting them to think about having a podcast, but everyone just instantly feels at ease. They come up with somebody that's had a big influence on their life, and it's a great way to start the conversation. We get straight into it. And we have had answers from Jesus to Anthony Robbins to Dolly Parton. Dolly Parton was one of my favorite ones. You're just like, this is genius. And so we had a great conversation about Dolly Parton, which is not what you expect to have. And so, and again, at the end of the show, we will say the show was brought to you by Podjunction. Do check it out, podjunction.com. We stop the recording button, and guess what? Half the conversations we have, if not 3/4 of the conversations we have afterwards, are like, man, that was a lot easier than I thought, this whole podcasting thing. And I'm like, yeah, have you ever thought about it? And it's an easy conversation to have, right? And it's not, get me wrong, we're not selling it there and then, but it's an easy conversation to have.
Planting the thought, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Planting the seeds and opening the door for those conversations to carry on. And so
it's similar to what Skip said. Like, it's a soft sell.
Yeah.
It's not, we're not ramming it down their throats.
No, not at all. I'm not like saying it's $9.99 a month, sign up now, or we're not going to carry on the interview. Maybe we should try that. See if we get any more sales. Now you're here. If you actually want the interview to carry on, just click the buy now button on our website. Give me your credit card details. But yeah, that's it's a really interesting way of doing it, and that's how we do it with Push. We don't do that with EP because EP is different. We'll talk about that maybe on another show because I'm aware of time. But certainly with Push, that's how we do it. And I don't know, how does Skip do it? What's his original podcast called?
The Advertising Podcast.
I'm going to listen to the Advertising Podcast because I wonder how he does that on that show. I'm just making a note here. The Advertising Podcast. If I had any sense, if we'd pre-planned this, I could have just pulled it up. And we could have listened to the... Anyway, never mind. Probably need Skip's permission before I start playing this podcast on ours. But yeah, I think check it out. Listen to how Skip does it. You know, the way we do it is not necessarily the way you should do it. But it's, you know, what works for us on the Push podcast. Podjunction, we don't have anything like that. We're just like, you know, this is who we are straight off the bat. This is what we do. I mean, it's totally blatant and not subtle at all in any kind of way. But that's okay. You know, we like that. And actually, I appreciate people listening to this show will be people who have been guests on the Push to Be More podcast. Yeah. And so they just listen to this going, Matt, you're a toe rag. I now understand your methodology. Just divulged your secrets. I understand what you are playing at now. That's why you invited me. And I thought it's because you liked me or I thought I was a nice person. Well, I did. I do. I still do.
That's why we want to work with you.
That's exactly. Excellent. Love that. So yes, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. But yeah, that's how I think you can use podcasting in that particular aspect. Yeah. So anything else from you?
No.
I think that was a good show. Enjoyed that. Awesome. Skip, you're a legend. Looking forward to talking to you on the e-commerce podcast. But that's it from me. That's it from Sadaf. I'll make sure you, like I say, go check out Skip's podcast. We'll link to them in the show notes. Do subscribe to them. Check out how he does it. We'll put all of those in there. In the show notes, we'll also put links to Push to Be More.
Yes, we will.
Will we?
Yeah, we will.
Okay.
So you can
if you want to check that out as well, you can do. And of course, if you haven't done so already, head over to the website, subscribe to the newsletter, and all of these notes, transcripts, everything, they just comes to your inbox every week. So you don't even have to go to the website anymore, which actually is not good for our web traffic, but it's great for you.
Great for you.
It's great for you. It just makes it a lot easier. So check out more at podjunction.com. But that's it from me. That's it from you.
It is from me too.
Are you sure?
Yep. Bye.
All right, bye for now.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode at Podjunction. If you've enjoyed the insights from this episode and want to hear the full conversation with today's special guest, don't forget to visit podjunction.com, where you'll find more information about how you can join Podjunction cohort. Whether you listened while on the go or in a quiet moment, thank you for letting us be a part of your day. Remember, every episode is a chance to gain insights and to transform your business with podcasting. So keep on tuning in, keep on learning, and until next time, happy podcasting.